Funny, isn't it? How they all stare when the quiet one stops playing along. When the one they underestimated stops nodding, stops shrinking, and starts moving different. Oh, the confusion on their faces, it's almost poetic. They don't say it out loud, of course. They whisper behind backs, in corners, what happened. He changed. She's not the same. No, I'm not. That version of me. The one you could push, mock, ignore. That version died the day I realized I didn't need to prove a damn thing to anyone who cheered louder for my failures than my growth. They say silence is weakness. That if you don't scream back, you've lost. That if you don't clap back, you're soft. That if you don't explain yourself, you're guilty. But silence, oh, silence is louder than any tantrum. Silence makes people uncomfortable. It makes them squirm. It's the kind of noise you don't hear with your ears, but you feel it right there under the skin, where all the lies hide. When you go quiet after the betrayal, after the chaos, after they pushed you over the edge expecting you to shatter, that's when the real panic starts. Because they wanted a show, a breakdown, a meltdown, a scream. They wanted to be the center of your pain, your rage, your retaliation. It feeds them, makes them feel important, like they still control the strings. But when you just stop talking, no goodbye, no threat, no drama, just silence, that's when they don't know what role to play anymore. You rob them of the audience, you burn down the stage, and now they're left standing in the ashes, waiting for a script that never comes. You see, when you answer betrayal with silence, you're not being passive. You're being precise, calculated, dangerous. It means you're not reacting emotionally, you're processing strategically. It means you're no longer trying to fix, explain, or defend. You're watching. You're learning. You're remembering. Silence isn't surrender, it's a setup. A clean exit. A quiet war plan. While they laugh thinking they've won, you're 10 steps ahead, building something bigger in the shadows. But the best part, they start to question themselves. That's the beauty of silence. It turns their confidence into paranoia. Every moment you don't react is a moment they spend wondering, did I go too far? Did they find out more than I thought? Are they planning something? Silence turns you into a riddle, a mirror, a ghost. And humans hate what they can't understand. They fear what they can't control. They run from what doesn't beg to be chased. You ever watch someone start unraveling just because you didn't text back? Didn't respond, didn't fall for the bait. They send the message, throw the jab, light the match, and you do nothing. You don't flinch. That eats them alive. Because the truth is, most people only betray you once they think they've figured you out. Once they think they've mapped your emotions, your triggers, your weaknesses. Silence resets the whole game. Suddenly they realize they never really knew you at all. That maybe you're not who they thought. That maybe you're far more dangerous now that you've gone quiet. They talk. They twist the story. But you don't correct them. You don't post a response. You don't feed their need for conflict. And in that void they implode. Because now everything they say just floats. No resistance. No validation. No one arguing back. Just their own voice echoing in a room that's getting colder. And that right there is how silence becomes a weapon sharper than any insult. It's how you win without touching a single piece on the board. And oh, they'll notice. They'll notice when you stop showing up, stop checking in, stop giving them access to the very parts of you they used to extol. They'll notice when you don't care to be understood anymore. When you don't ask for closure. When you stop playing the game and start building your own. And they'll wonder what happened. Why so quiet? Where did they go? They'll ask everyone except the mirror. That's when the tables turn. When your silence starts speaking a language they can't translate, it says you no longer have access. Your betrayal has been noted, filed, and closed. This is the sound of me healing without you. This is the part where I grow and you fade, but you don't say those things out loud. You let them feel it in your distance, in your discipline, in your detachment. And you smile just a little, knowing they're losing sleep over your absence, because the truth is, Silence is the most poetic revenge, not because it punishes them, but because it elevates you. It says you've moved on to rooms where your energy isn't bled out for people who never deserved it. It says your focus is no longer on the past, it's on building something so loud they'll have to hear about it from everyone except you. And when they do, they'll know. Without a single word, they'll know. Funny how people stop watching when you stop performing. You vanish and the applause dies, the texts slow, the calls fade. Suddenly you're not the favorite distraction anymore. They start replacing you in group chats, skip your name in conversations, act like you never mattered. That's the magic trick, isn't it? Disappear. And you'll see who was clapping for you and who was just clapping for the show. But you knew this would happen. That's why you went silent in the first place. Not because you were broken, but because you were building. Quietly. Ruthlessly. They think distance means defeat. That when you vanish from their screens, from their circles, you've given up. But no, oh no, disappearing isn't quitting. It's sharpening the blade. It's stepping into the lab, locking the doors, and becoming a version of yourself they're not ready to meet. Not yet. Not while you're still unfinished. Not while you're still healing. You go off the radar not to hide, but to rewire. To strip the weaknesses off your bones. To bury the soft parts in steel. You go underground so that when you return, you don't just glow, you blind. They expect you to stay down. They get real comfortable with the broken version of you. The one who needed validation. The one who over-explained. The one who begged to be chosen. But what they never expect is your rebirth. The new you doesn't knock, doesn't announce, doesn't ask to be let in. The new you kicks the door open with eyes colder than before. Because now you've seen the truth. You've seen what loyalty really means to people who only love you when you're useful. You've seen what support really looks like when you stop entertaining their egos. And while they were laughing, assuming you'd stay down there in the dark, you were becoming someone else. Someone quieter, smarter, scarier. Someone who doesn't seek revenge because the success is already enough. That's the real trick. Let them think you're gone. Let them throw dirt on your name. Let them tell your story the way it fits their guilt. Because every lie they speak becomes a prophecy you get to prove wrong without a single word. That's the kind of payback you don't rush. You let it simmer, slow, quiet, explosive. They don't know what happens in the silence. They don't see the late nights, the grind, the heartbreak turned into fuel. They don't see the monster you become behind closed doors, the one that doesn't flinch anymore. The one that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't even respond. They can't see it because they're not supposed to. Not yet. Not until the smoke clears and they realize the one they counted out was just getting started. You ever watch someone try to figure out how you got so far without them? How you built something they never believed you could? That look in their eyes, that mix of confusion, regret, and fear, that's the reward. That's what silence buys you. Clarity, control, and a comeback so loud it echoes in rooms you haven't even walked into yet. But you're not doing it for them, are you? You're doing it for the part of you they tried to kill, the version of you that almost believed them. The part that stayed quiet when it should have screamed. The part that thought maybe they were right. But not anymore. Now every step is calculated. Every move is precise. No wasted energy. No more pouring into people who only show up when you shine. No more giving explanations to people committed to misunderstanding you. Now you move different. You talk less, you listen more, you let the results do the screaming. Because when you disappear from their radar and reappear on a higher frequency, they can't reach you. Not with fake love. Not with guilt. Not with noise. You've outgrown their volume. You've tuned into a different station. One where you don't need to be liked to be respected. One where you don't need to be seen to be significant. One where your presence isn't a performance, it's a problem. A reminder. A warning. Because you didn't disappear to escape, you disappeared to evolve. An evolution. It doesn't beg. It doesn't warn. It just arrives. So go ahead, vanish. Go cold. Go ghost. Let them forget you, let them doubt. Let them move on. Because one day they'll hear your name in rooms they didn't think you'd ever enter. And they'll wonder how you did it, where you went, what they missed. But you'll be too far gone to answer, too elevated, too transformed. And the silence will be the only thing they remember. Funny thing about growth, it doesn't knock politely or send a backslate. It shows up like a storm in the middle of your fake friendships, your half-hearted habits, your hostile little comfort zones. And suddenly everything feels wrong. You don't laugh at the same jokes. You don't care about fitting in with the same people. You start sitting alone not because you're lonely, but because the noise around you stopped making sense. Growth, real growth, doesn't tap you on the shoulder. It grabs you by the throat and whispers, "We're not doing this anymore." And it's not pretty, it's not some polished inspirational montage. It's messy, awkward, ugly. You start saying no, not just to them, but to the old version of yourself that kept playing small. You stop entertaining conversations that feel like chewing glass. You walk away mid-sentence, mid-chapter, mid-relationship, and you don't explain. That's the part people don't like, the no explanation. Because they were never used to you choosing yourself. They liked you soft, predictable, always available. The moment you start growing in silence, they start panicking in volume. They'll say you've changed. That's their favorite line. You're different now. Like it's an insult. Like you're supposed to apologize for not staying stuck. But that's the goal, isn't it? To become unrecognizable to the version of you that begged for crumbs. That stayed just to be tolerated. That silenced its own needs just to be liked. Now you walk different. You don't overshare, you don't overstay, you don't explain your worth, you just exist like it's undeniable. That silence you're sitting in now, that distance they keep questioning, that's your rebirth. That's you, growing in a direction they can't follow. Not because you're better, but because they refused to grow too. They wanted the old you. The one that dimmed their light to make others shine. The one that swallowed dreams because it made people uncomfortable. But that version got tired of pretending. That version walked out without warning. Didn't even leave a note. Just vanished like smoke. And here's where it gets fun. They don't see it coming. Because they were so used to you explaining every move, defending every boundary, apologizing for every ounce of self-respect. Now nothing. No calls. No updates. Just silence, and it eats at them. They poke around. Try to provoke. Try to guilt trip. But you just keep building, quietly, relentlessly. While they're busy wondering what went wrong, you're over here making sure everything goes right. And they'll try to rewrite the story. Play the victim. Pretend they let you go when really they never held you in the first place. Let them. Let them tell their little bedtime tales. You're not here to convince anyone. You're here to become someone. Someone too focused to respond. Too powerful to explain. Too real to entertain people who mistake your silence for weakness. Because silence is where the beast sharpens its teeth. This is what growth in private looks like. Long nights, ugly cries, cold mornings, sitting in front of mirrors you used to avoid, asking yourself who the hell you've become, and finally liking the answer. Not because you're perfect, but because you're honest now, brutally honest, with them, with yourself. No more pretending, no more shrinking, just truth, raw, loud, silent truth. And as you rise, you'll hear the noise, the whispers, the jealousy wrapped in concern. You've changed, you're distant, you're acting different. Good. Let them talk. Let them twist the narrative while you twist fate. Because the real ones, they won't need an explanation. They'll recognize the glow up in your absence. They'll feel the shift in your silence. They'll know you didn't disappear, you elevated. Growth doesn't need to be seen to be real. It doesn't need an audience to be powerful. It just needs time, space, and a refusal to go back to who you had to be just to survive around people who never saw you. So if you're moving different, sounding different, breathing different, it's not by accident. It's by design, a masterpiece in the making. One that doesn't need applause, one that doesn't chase closure, one that simply arrives unbothered, undeniable, and unrecognizable from the mess it came from. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them dissect your silence like it's a secret code. Because here's the truth no one likes to admit: transformation doesn't come with announcements. It comes with distance, with detachment, with walking past the crowd that once praised you for being tame. And the moment you stop explaining yourself, stop begging for understanding, stop watering dead things, they panic because they relied on your need to be understood. That was their grip on you. But once you let go of that leash, they don't know what to do with the version of you that doesn't care to correct their assumptions anymore. See, when you transform, you don't need to shout it from the rooftops. You let them guess. You let them spin their little stories. Some will say you lost it. Some will say you found something new, and the best ones, they'll whisper that you've become dangerous, not because you threaten them, but because you threaten what they thought they knew about you. The neat little box they kept you in suddenly has cracks. And through those cracks, light's pouring in. Light they never expected, power they can't understand, and that makes people squirm. They stare at you now with squinted out with. Not because they hate you, no, that would require honesty. They look at you with confusion wrapped in curiosity. What went wrong? Why are they so cold now? Why don't they call anymore? They miss the old version of you. The one that said yes when it hurt. The one that laughed off insults. The one that carried other people's guilt like it was a badge. But that version is buried, not gone buried. Honored like a soldier who fought too long for a war that was never theirs to win now. You walk past their projections like a ghost in daylight. You see them still playing the same game, still dancing for the same applause. But you don't join in anymore. You sit at your own table, and when there's no table, you build one. In silence. With broken wood and bloodied hands. You build because begging is beneath you now. You build because explaining never bought you peace, only delay. You build because you finally realize that some people will never get it. And that's the point. And while they wonder if you're okay, you're not thinking about them. Not out of bitterness. Because your focus is finally on what matters, your path, your craft. The revenge isn't loud. It's in the subtle glow up, the quiet wins, the doors opening that they swore would stay shut. It's in the rooms you walk into where their names are never mentioned. It's in the strength they said you didn't have now wrapped around your spine like armor. The best revenge is becoming unrecognizable. To walk into places and have people say, wait, is that them? Not because you're acting, but because you finally stopped acting. You finally dropped the script they handed you, and now they don't know what scene they're in anymore. Are they the villain? The bystander? The forgotten? Let them wonder. That's not your burden to carry anymore. They'll replay everything they said, everything they didn't, trying to pinpoint the moment they lost access. They won't find it, because the shift didn't happen with fireworks. It happened in whispers, late nights, quiet decisions. It happened when you started choosing peace over performance, when you stopped justifying your boundaries, when you realize being misunderstood by fools is better than being drained by the familiar. Let them call it arrogance. Let them label it cold. Let them miss the version of you they could control. Because what's rising now, it doesn't bend. It doesn't flinch. It doesn't shrink to make others feel tall. It walks alone, not because it has to, but because it chooses to. And that kind of freedom, that kind of detachment, that kind of silence, it drives them mad. So don't explain the glow. Don't clarify the silence. Don't defend your peace. Let them sit in the confusion. Let them stew in the gap between who you were and who you've become. Let their imaginations torment them more than your words ever could. Because mystery is more haunting than truth. And your evolution, that's a mystery they'll never solve. You ever notice how people love you most when you're easy to figure out? When you smile on cue, shrink on command, keep your dreams small enough to fit inside their insecurities. They like you neat, predictable, digestible. Not too loud, not too bold, not too honest. Just enough spark to be entertaining. Never enough fire to burn the illusion. Because the second you shift, no warning, no apology, they get nervous. Not because you hurt them, but because you stopped letting them shape you like clay and started walking like stone. See, they don't really want you to grow. They want you to almost grow. Improve just enough to look impressive, never enough to become untouchable. Stay within reach. Stay humble. Stay tired. That's how they like you, exhausted from carrying everyone's expectations on your back while clapping for yourself in private. But you're done. You're not playing that part anymore. You're not starving yourself emotionally so others can stay full off your energy. You've realized now your silence is louder than their noise ever was, so you pull back. Start walking different. No big announcement, no fireworks, no post on social media. Just a shift, cold, precise. You stop answering out of obligation. You stop showing up for people who would never show up for you if the roles reversed. You stop offering explanations like discounts on your worth. And when they ask what's wrong, you smile. Because nothing's wrong. You're just awake now. And awake looks a lot like distant to people who were only there when you were asleep. You start moving like a secret. Like a storm they didn't see coming. You say less, but everything about you speaks. The way you dress, the way you walk into a room without trying to be seen. The way you refuse to beg, explained Chase. That's the real power. They don't get a front row seat to your life anymore. They get rumors, whispers, a few breadcrumbs here and there. And you just keep building behind the curtain. Brick by brick, scar by scar, they'll swear you switched up. That's their favorite line. You're not the same anymore. Of course not. You outgrew the costume. You stopped laughing at jokes that weren't funny. You stopped pretending mediocrity was enough. You stopped picking loyalty over your own sanity. They don't like that version of you, the one who can sit alone, the one who doesn't need validation to feel valuable, the one who's not afraid to be misunderstood. Because now you speak a language they never learned, boundaries. You ever watch people panic when you stop performing? When the clown takes off the paint and suddenly nobody's laughing, that's what you've done. You took off the nice mask, the agreeable mask, the please like me mask, and what's underneath? Not anger, not bitterness, just clarity. Just someone who's done playing dumb to make fragile people feel smart. Someone who sees through the compliments and the convenient support. Someone who finally realized being liked isn't worth being lost, so now they watch you like spectators at a crime scene, trying to understand what they missed, trying to reverse engineer the fallout. But there was no single moment, no big explosion, just 1,000 little cuts. You stitched in silence, 1,000 disappointments you smiled through, until one day the smile cracked, and in its place, steel, fire, silence, the kind that doesn't need revenge, just results. And that's the part that gets them, the fact that you're not angry, you're not ranting, you're not posting quotes about betrayal, you're just gone. Not physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Unsubscribed. They feel the absence more than they ever appreciated the presence. That's the irony. They notice your silence more than they ever noticed your voice. And now they want access to the new version of you, the one you bled for, the one you rebuilt in private. But it's invitation only now. Velvet rope. No re-entry.